Now, our next speaker brings with him more than 30 years' experience in international banking, and indeed that more than qualifies him to address our next topic. So he will share with us now his experience really in how you can help you and help all of us to raise capital through financial instruments. So please welcome from Habib International Bank, the President and the CEO, Sirajuddin Aziz.
Mr. Khalid Rahman, Vice President of ICAP, Mr. Yaqub Sattar, Chairman of the conference, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum. First and foremost, I must mention that the subject that I have at hand is not going to be as juicy as Mr. Saddle, considering you're talking about white-collar crimes and how to apprehend those who indulge in it. It's going to be rather more mundane than that. Secondly, in conversation with Ms. Trainer, who is the moderator of this conference, prior to your assembling here, I asked her, or she asked me rather, how long would you speak? I said, how long can I speak? Got reminded of the fact that Woodrow Wilson was once asked by some organizers of an event to come and speak. So he said, when do you expect me to speak? They said, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. He said, and how long do you want me to speak? So they said that maybe about half an hour. So he said, sorry, I can't accept your invitation. So they were a little baffled. They said, Mr. President, why not? He said, if I have to speak for 30 minutes, then I need at least 3 months' notice. If I have to speak for 20 minutes, then I need only about 4 months' notice. And if I have to speak endlessly, then I'm ready now. I'll try and keep as best aligned the presentation with the slides that I have. I hope this gadget, I'm able to handle it properly. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, the subject that we have at hand is raising finance, raising capital through various instruments. Now, Pakistan, obviously, I'm going to first cover up certain aspects in relation to the industry as a whole, and then look more focusedly at what's happening out in our country. And one must bear in mind that this is, despite 60-odd years of independence, we still are a very young country. And therefore, the processes, the policies, the procedures, the laws, the regulations are all in their nascent stage of implementations. It takes considerable number of years, decades, centuries for nations to mature. And I think all of us witnessed yesterday how immature we can get, so let's live with the fact that we are an immature nation, first and foremost. Now, what's happened over the period of time is that there is obviously a... Yeah, I knew it wouldn't work for the first time. Finally, it does. Now, it is a known fact that it is inconceivable to have any kind of financial development without the concurrent economic development that must take place. And it is necessary, therefore, that the financial markets growth is an absolute surety to economic growth. The two move hand in glove. Innovations in financial instruments provide an important and an essential contribution to the economic development of any country. I therefore, with this concept and with this premise at the background, I like to make a presentation of mine that shall cover the corporate bond market in Pakistan and also the development of the fixed income instruments market in Pakistan. Now, we are all aware that financing needs are essentially meant from 4 aspects. First and foremost, the equity aspect, then it's the retained earnings, the bank borrowings, and of course the corporate bonds. Now, in the emerging market that we are, including Pakistan itself, something like 80% of the corporate financing is in the form of pure bank loans. And corporate bonds come in and fill in on a very small portion, a very small margin of the total external financing that organizations need. The bond market, therefore, also is in a very nascent stage. In comparison to the total GDP, it is still less than 1% of the combined GDP of the country. Now, there could be several reasons that one can cite in relation to the significance of the bond market. The prime ones being that corporate bonds essentially serve as a major source of long-term alternate funding. They also offer a major competition to the financial institutions, because that is where competition in terms of rates, pricing, and tenor comes in. Then it also adds some kind of inherent stability in the overall financial sector of the economy. Now, the primary reason that possibly underscores all of this developing of the corporate bond market is that, one, it's an alternate source of external funds, and two, which is more important than anything else, it enhances financial stability and gives some kind of efficiency to the allocation of credit available in the market. This alternate source of funding has been very rightly put by the former chairman of Fed Reserve, Alan Greenspan, who called it the spare tire for the economy. And a classic example that I can give in relation to the spare tire concept is when the Asian crisis erupted, largely out of Southeast Asia, then moving on to the Northeast Asia, the weakening banking sector gave a large impetus to the growth of the corporate bond market. It was by the diversification of their sources of funds that companies were able to adjust their borrowings between the banks and the debt markets. Now, it is here that the complementary roles of the financial institutions and the corporate bond markets can bring around some kind of a stability in the financial intermediation processes. A corporate bond market can also enhance the rollover risk, the mitigating credit risk. In case, for example, the interest rates are increased for reasons of monetary policy or for reasons of protection of your exchange rate mechanism, the firms that rely heavily on short-term borrowings will face very high debt servicing cost, and those that are taken up long-term borrowing will be in a better position to have access to capital at more predictable rates. And also, in the short-term borrowing, one is also faced with the consequences of a credit crunch that comes in. And I think Pakistan has experienced that recently. Now, the corporate bond market as it exists, how does one go around ensuring that there is depth created in that market? It can be done through development of the domestic currency itself and by managing for provision of longer term maturities to be made available. Now, this is a key challenge to all emerging markets, including Pakistan. Now, these indigenous efforts have also received a lot of international support. Those of you who are familiar with the G8 action plan for the development of local bond markets in the emerging markets, the initiatives that the ADB has taken in order to issue some of the regional bonds, this, ladies and gentlemen, also brings us very closely to the fact that we have to look at financial innovation and the promise that it holds for the development of the financial instruments and the overall bond and the banking market as such. Financial innovation undoubtedly is welfare enhancing if it brings about reduction in the overall cost of capital without a consummate rise or an increase in systemic risk. The benefits of relatively broad and deep capital markets complemented by an active derivative markets can be measured in factors such as lower pricing, reduced cost of capital, mitigated credit risk exposures, broader access to capital, and above all, increased liquidity being the most important one. Now, innovation obviously must also take care of and must be cognizant of movement of capital has to become more efficient, risk management practices have to be more targeted, hedging has to be better matched, and trading